Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Empowera podcast. We got another episode here with our guest, Andrew.
It's Andrew Temple.
Yes, go ahead. Tell us a little bit about you, Andrew.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks. Yeah, thanks for having me on here. I have a luxury wellness retreat. We do psychedelic medicine here in Mexico, and we help a lot of health professionals and do a lot of help in the mental health space here as well.
Got it. All right, and you're currently in Mexico. We're not on video. This is just voice at this time. But you are currently, as we can see here on video, that you are in Mexico, and are you currently on a retreat at this time?
Yeah, I'm at the retreat center right now. Yeah.
Oh, all right, got it. But are you on an active retreat? Sorry, distinction.
Active retreat? No, it starts in 3 days.
That's
so
it. I get it.
A month, and then we have a week off. So right now we're just kind of on vacation mode.
I get it. Hey, and we got to be able to have that distinction even in life or quality of life. So I'm glad you're mentioning that too. So would it start off with any acknowledgments or thank yous that you'd like to, of any individuals, organizations, furry friends, any of that, Andrew, that you'd like to acknowledge?
Yeah, for sure. We do have a nonprofit. It's called All Heroes Rise. It's for veterans, and it's where we help out veterans that are looking for, psychedelic treatment for like improvement in mental health, and that might not be like financially at a place to afford that sort of thing. So that would be my shout out.
Yeah. Wow. Definitely. And was it over 30,000 veterans last year alone were homeless at one time or another? So that's just the homelessness aspect. You were mentioning the financial aspect too, and it is. It's a multifaceted approach there to be able to invent that possibility for individuals, especially when you have to go to another country to still create possibilities so they can have quality of life too. So and you're in creating that as well. So I want to acknowledge that back at you for that, and I want to see. David, was there anything you would like to acknowledge or thank any individuals or organizations?
We got your health tech, and then always you have the SPCA for the cats and dogs that are always left behind somewhere. So as much as adult trauma, we got animal trauma, and that's one of the most prolific problems out there as well.
Wow. Powerful share there, David. Thank you. And that will lead us into our question at hand here. Andrew, what in your opinion is happening within healthcare? What in your opinion is happening within health and wellness at large?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, healthcare at large, I mean, it's obviously evolving. There's a lot more focus and attention on like alternative wellness solutions when it comes to improving wellness and mental health. And a lot of it's based on like focus on the body. People are doing things like ice bath. People are like, doing run clubs. People are doing a lot more somatic things for themselves, and also exploring psychedelic things for themselves, which are like, the plant medicine treatments and just like alternative ways to remediate things like anxiety, PTSD, depression, things like that. And still like, not go on prescription medication and not do things that might negatively affect your health long term. And so it's great, and it's kind of a land of exploration right now. And we're happy to be a part of it. And, we're certainly, like, I'm a person that's like one of the people that have been on both sides of those systems, and, very, very happy with the results that, that all of them make for certain people. But, for me, it was like something that was really kind of got me across the finish line of where I needed to be in my life. And so that's what got me into this space. And it's been great. It's been a pleasure to help other people kind of do that same thing for themselves.
Wow. Truly. And you didn't start in the psychedelic space too. Could you walk us through a little bit of your journey? I think I had read up a little bit. You went to, is it southeastern Missouri? Is that right?
Yeah, that's where I'm from, yeah.
All right. And then you were into roofing. You were into roofing. You were your own boss for roofing, right?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
No, but that's great. It's eclectic. Yeah. You didn't just go straight to psychedelics. You didn't like go to med school, start off. You get what I'm saying? There's that distinction here, and that's a hybrid. Yeah, tell us a little bit about that influence. I think that's on.
I had a very, very boring life for a while.
No, not boring at all. I was a maintenance man for a summer when I was in college, so I get it. Hey, I mean, I got enough gum off the bottom of desks in this high school to shoot hoops in the gym. So don't worry about it. And I discovered a lot of different stuff. So you're eclectic in skills. I acknowledge that. But yes, please.
Yeah. Well, it started, I was installing TVs on the walls and like garbage disposals, doing handyman work, and then got into like rehabbing kitchens and bathrooms, and then got into a roofing company and did that in total for like 6 or 7 years. And like the result of that, financial success, but I was like mentally bankrupt, and just anxiety, burnout, like all those things from just like stressing myself out for years. And eventually it was kind of like hit the eject button. I had to figure something out with my mental health. And like at that time, I started just exploring options, went to hospitals, did like all of the traditional healthcare stuff. I mean, like on every medication, like I don't remember like most of the names, but just like everything that there is for like anxiety, depression, like even like antipsychotic stuff. I just, tried everything to kind of like get healed. And, nothing really like got to that point where I was like at peace or happy or anything like that. It was just kind of like I would have spaces of numbness and spaces of like just continuing to suffer, and sometimes it got worse. And at the end of that, it was like $100,000 of like my own money invested into this. And at the end of the day, I kind of just literally gave up. I was like, I don't know how to fix my mental health. I don't know how to fix like this problem. And and then kind of fast forward a couple years, I came down to Mexico and answered an Instagram ad and did like the psychedelic treatment that they offer down here, which is like, more of a shamanic experience. It was like I did, mushrooms and ayahuasca and a plant medicine called bufo on the beach. And it like just reset my brain. It like, I just had peace and happiness for the first time in my 30s. And I was like, it was just mind blowing, and just kind of experienced that glow for like 30 or 40 days. And I kind of just asked myself a question, like, what do I want to do as far as like my next phase in life? Like, I just feel like I had a clean slate at that point. And my journey, like I went down to Mexico originally to avoid COVID. Like like they never really closed anything down here.
Yeah,
like,
no, I no clue. Yeah, what did you discover through all of that? Yeah.
And so I came down here, and then I answered an Instagram ad like in the middle of Mexico, and did this experience on the beach. And I know that like that's not something that many people are going to do. And like I know there's hundreds of thousands of people that suffered in the same way that I suffered, because I met them, I've seen them. It's my friends, it's my family members, it's like the people of the world that I know are like in the Western world that's struggling with the same thing I struggled with. And like and it's like they don't have access to this. They don't, like, just like me, they don't have the awareness that this even exists. Like I had no idea that this transformation could happen in a therapeutic sense. I'd done mushrooms before, like, in college and stuff like that, but I'd never had such a transformational experience where, I was like, cleared, like mentally, like no more fog, no more pain, no more stress. And it was just found peace. And I wanted to build something that, like U.S., Canada, like people would actually say yes to. And that's what kind of like led us to building this villa and building this program, and including a lot of other wellness elements, and like a really curated experience with doctors, psychologists, nurses, like a whole hospitality staff to make sure everything goes smooth and make sure like everything's like really taken care of. And it's like curated experience where people are going to feel safe, secure, loved, and supported, and going to be able to find the same experience that I found like, on a beach in Mexico, but done in a really high level way. That's going to, be, just safe and comfortable. I think that's what people need to go through this journey. And it's been wonderful. We've done this for 3 years now, and thousands of people have gotten help like with this program. So yeah, that's kind of what got me into this, and a little bit about its journey here.
And what a story it is. It truly is. To see that, I just want to acknowledge it, that you went from the Western mindset of wanting to, get the big bank account. You wanted to just, help out, support the U.S. economy, and that was it. And you took this pivot. Something culturally, it seemed, even happened with you too, Andrew, along that whole journey you just described, where it wasn't just, I'm not saying that you didn't have your allegiance towards, the United States or whatever, country, whatever it may be, whatever name, acronym, whatever they want to give them, but you still saw this promise of going beyond that and still seeing what you could discover with it. And while still wanting to take care of your own health. Like, this all happened on your journey of your own health and quality of life. You discovered all of this. And to see that distinction is, the terms I've given are either like a pivot or a shift. You've had a pivot or a shift, and it's amazing to see. We can track what occurred, what event happened that really made a distinction, especially with the experience that you've had in and out of the traditional healthcare system here too, of the Western traditional. I'm glad you mentioned that too. And I want to acknowledge your investment and not giving up. And knowing what the dollar amount was in the traditional medical system, but you still were brave in that fight, and you're a warrior. I want to acknowledge you for being a warrior for that, and then going to apply it elsewhere in the world and seeing these possibilities, and not breaking the law, still following the law, but being a force of disruption. Andrew, you're a force of disruption. The way things are within healthcare and health and wellness are, at least for me, you've answered it. I guess I can say from what it is I've learned from your share is. We're in a renaissance, and people are having those discussions like they've never had them before.
Yeah. Thank you for that. And yeah, it's been a journey. And as far as being a warrior and not giving up, I mean, I don't think you have an option. You're either here or you're not. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
If you're not here, on a solution. you know, yeah.
Yeah. Wow. And taking on what it is you've had so far in your experiences and the classes and the individuals that you've led, are there any, besides like the frequently asked questions, is there something that's even new coming up? Say maybe within the last 2 or 3 years that people haven't been asking before because of, say, changes in legislation somewhere or of an interest. I guess the term would be the trend. Not to say that there isn't a trend that already exists with it being, right? Let's say there's a trend existing within the being of psychedelic treatment and retreats. Are people more curious about specific avenues, treatments that they did over prior ones that you know of, or you've heard maybe from who has given you instructions?
Yeah, for sure. I've learned a lot from, like, in Mexico, this has been going on for thousands of years.
Mm-hmm.
And so they have a culture around this, and they have a process, and they have a deep understanding of, like, what happens in that transformational experience. And so I got to honor, like, those roots, because those are the people I've really learned from over the years about these experiences and how to really create an experience that's going to be profound. And a lot of that's preparation and integration and those things that, like, people have heard about. And so that's a big part of, like, this conversation. I think, like, the conversation has really been primarily about, like, kind of relieving the stigma around these things and understanding the difference between a recreational experience and a therapeutic experience, and then learning how to really cause a powerful therapeutic and effective therapeutic experience is, like, our craft, so to speak. And so that's probably been, like, the biggest, like, that's kind of a thing I nerd out on is I did experiences for 7 years in my 20s and did, like, neighborhood events and festivals and stuff like that. And so hosting events is something that, like, I really I like, and it's something that just have a passion around. And so, like, creating an experience that's, like, every little piece of the puzzle is kind of there as far as the support that's needed is something that I think is fascinating, and it's something that I think is really needed to create an experience that's going to be transformational, and that somebody can take home, and it's going to be a lifetime of change, like a permanent change in that person's life. And so I'd say that's probably the most important part of this conversation is be able to, like, kind of separate those two things. And to also, like, I mean, I could nerd out for a long time on, like, how to really create that therapeutic experience, because it's something that like, that you have to focus on, you have to be really good at to be effective in the space. And so I think a lot of the research that people do and, like, conversations about, like, safe methods and just the practical stuff is a really great conversation. And it's something that that, like, we've just, like, the community down in Mexico has been doing for such a long time. I think there's a lot to be learned from, like, the indigenous roots, and then I think building this around, like, a culmination of other wellness activities, because, like, psychedelics isn't the answer that's going to be the end all be all for everybody, but having a, like, healthy, balanced life where you're intentionally doing good things for yourself, and taking care of your body, taking care of your diet, taking care of, like, some sort of exercise routine, taking care of your spirit and your mind, and, like, focusing on things that are important for you. We like to do all of those things at the retreat because, like, not everybody's experienced yoga or hypnotherapy or ice baths or even psychotherapy or, somatic movement and these other things that are really helpful at releasing trauma, really helpful at just, like, focusing your attention inward and having, like, a sound bath to maybe meditate for the first time. And this is something that a lot of people in the Western world just haven't done because it's difficult to do. It's kind of difficult to meditate on your own. And a lot of people just don't make time and space for it. And so having, like, all those elements of the program kind of put together is, like, a really gracious act of self-love for yourself. And so having that with the psychedelics and all these other elements of the program in a really great space. I wish you guys could see the villa. It's just, like, a beautiful ocean view, like, panoramic view of the Pacific Ocean, like infinity pool, and just a place that, like, normally people wouldn't visit for themselves. And something that you can really have a profound relaxation, like, with an experience like this, and get away from, like, problems at work, problems with the family, problems at home, problems with whatever's going on in your life, and really have that time to reset. And so it's, like, a combination of those factors that really creates, like, space for change for people. And so, that was, like, a long answer, but I think
nothing wrong here. That was great.
Change, I think, is the biggest thing.
Yeah. Oh no, absolutely. And again, There's no wrong answers here. There's no long answers here. It's good. It's nothing wrong here. We come from that place. But to see that the cultural aspect, I'm glad you mentioned the overall leaning in of the environment. Because we have to remember, it's not just people doing psychedelics. It's people doing psychedelics in Mexico, in an area where you have the other surroundings that we have geographically. Being able to go outside of suburbia, and be able to come from a place of outside of suburbia while trying to look out for your quality of life instead of in suburbia and your quality of life. Because, even now, I think, what was it? Even on the radio and even online now, there's the trending topic of how long the optimal vacation is. And I think they just changed it from 7 or 8 days to 11, Andrew. So we're having these discussions and it is, some of these are mental vacations, but I think even another thing I had read up online that I saw in one of your shares for the company was you did, and I'm glad you mentioned it again too, was the ocean aspect. Because there is this healing aspect to these other variables that are around us that we just don't have in our day-to-day, that we did maybe ancestrally, and that can activate specific things in our bodies that we don't even know yet at the level because we're not by an ocean, say, theoretically, right? So, and again, this is theory. Again, everybody lean into your own research. But I'm getting head nods, so I'm saying some people are curious on it to see in the overall experience as to what the body is keeping count of during these experiences too. And to bring it back of, take a look at the ocean. Does that bring you back? If that's one approach for whoever. It's fingerprint experiences, I think, Andrew. Each person has their own. And to be able to give them that time and space, in a space that's away from their normal time and space, the familiar, that's where I think, and from what I'm hearing from you, that's where it happens. That's where the real difference can happen. And I've said on past podcasts, I'm a huge proponent for adjunctive therapy. Again, in time, I'm seeing that this would become, at least from what I've seen as a practitioner, where I see promise. It doesn't mean that someone can't go out being a grown adult and make a grown adult decision and ask their own research and look into their own safety. And the phrase that I've heard prior was harm reduction. When I was at the Psychedelic Science Conference in June of 2023, someone brought up the phrase benefit maximization. So you get your maximum benefit knowing what it is that you are ingesting or putting into your body from the one of 70 neurotransmitters that we're told that we can or cannot use through our own cognition, and thus is there liberty to that, especially if you're speaking of the United States. And that's a whole other discussion too, Andrew. We could probably be here for that for a while. Because it seems that is it really up for, and for people, those who are very spiritual too, you still see in the First Amendment the ability for spiritual exploration. So, and the freedom for that. And what that looks like for each individual, again, fingerprint experience so far I've seen on this planet, for those who get the time and the place for it. So,
yeah.
What's occurring from you from all this sharing, David? I'm curious.
Just a variety of different treatments. Ayahuasca is a natural occurring southwestern plant that I know that the American Indians use. How has that culture been for you, Andrew, and acclimating to that different type of living experience?
Yeah, for sure. I think ayahuasca is more well known when it comes to psychedelic therapy than mushrooms, as far as the therapeutic use and the shamanic use and that sort of thing. And so I think it has deeper roots and more wide use all over South America and that sort of thing. And so it's kind of one of those things that came before, as far as that practical application, utilizing this for mental health and transformation and spiritual growth and things like that. And so I think there's a really, really solid culture around it. And we used to do ayahuasca retreats and mushroom retreats in parallel. And we ultimately kind of switched gears to just focus more on mushrooms and DMT. And we also do ibogaine now for addiction treatments. And the reason for that being is that, the transformation you can get from ayahuasca and the transformation you get from mushrooms are very similar. But mushrooms is much more gentle on your body and your nervous system, and you often don't have to purge. Most people don't. And it's more of a sort of one and done experience where with ayahuasca, you typically have to cleanse the body, get rid of a lot of the stuff before you have that profound spiritual experience. And mushrooms is more of a, all right, cool, one macrodose, it's 5 or 6 hours, and it's sort of on the other side where it's yeah, I got what I needed. And so, when creating something for the Western world, we wanted to make something that was effective, and then obviously what's the easiest program to go through that's going to be going to have the least amount of resistance to it. And so, over time, we're just that's mushrooms, and a lot of people aren't qualified for ayahuasca as well, as far as the health qualifications. And And it's just it's a much easier medicine to take on with like the similar result. Like you don't need like 3 days of kind of like purging and going through all this very very difficult like physical experience with mushrooms. It's more of just like a mental emotional experience, and then you're on the other side, and you have a breakthrough. So that's one of the reasons we kind of shifted that. But yeah, both are really profound, both are beautiful, and both have like their unique benefits.
Cool. How do you navigate with the U.S. health system and where Mexican health systems? Because you're operating in two different environments.
Yeah, for sure. Well, Mexico was like, they never had a war on drugs like we had, and like mushrooms have been a part of their culture since like before
Right.
Spanish
Aztec,
influence.
way
So,
back,
like,
yeah. Yeah.
They never like like mushrooms are bad. Like they bring their whole family to do psychedelics. Grandmas, the parents and the kids. Like after 16, like they're doing this sort of thing, and I've seen it. And so, they're really a different perspective on these types of treatments. And with the Western system, just kind of like watching things as they develop. There's always like a time period of like transition whenever something goes from criminalized to decriminalized to regulated, and it's kind of in that middle ground right now. And so one of the benefits of Mexico is that like we're close to the United States. We're about 2 hours from most of the southern states as far as flights with an international airport. And we can also offer like a more robust program with like doing this in Mexico. Like something like this in the States would cost like 3 times as much. And so it's something that like it's we're kind of excited about the growth of legalization and like the more opportunity in the States of getting access to these types of treatments, because like there's so many people that could get benefit from it in the States. And also like that's something that's going to take time, and it's going to take time to do really well. And so we're focused on like doing really well right now, and then like plan on pivoting as things kind of develop over in the States as well.
Thank you.
Yeah. No, those are great questions, dude. I'm glad I asked, because I didn't think of them. Was knowing and stepping into this too. It's amazing. It's amazing that you've seen this distinction even that you're in. It's almost like a form of culture shock, where you're in Mexico and it's like the automatic mechanic is, oh yeah, we're on drugs. What's that? But then you come over here and it's like, But and you mentioned the price of the ability for treatment. I'm glad you mentioned that too, Andrew. Yeah. Was you're not up against a bunch of regulation or red tape, which really I feel would be getting in the way of people reaching for quality of life. You have literal cultural support within a government that says and allows you, it seems, to provide this at a more economical rate and to provide that possibility. And good on with that, and anybody else that is supporting you or being able to create that possibility, because that's literally it. It's not just about the money. It's about the literal experience for the consumer, at least from what I'm getting at this time. So, yeah. And to see that, too, I didn't know if your organization, because the big name that comes out when we mention psilocybin is Maria Sabina. And I didn't know if you had any history, or if anybody you've run into has had any history or interactions with anything Maria Sabina in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah, I got into this they call me a weirdo, like I'm just a white guy.
No, I get it.
So that's the truth, and I've been honored and humbled to learn so much about like this space, and part of like the privilege of being here is like I wanted to go to like her hometown and just exist and kind of experience that space like where she's from, and so I did that this year in February and went to like Wetla and just talk to people there, and it's like everybody there's a shaman. Like you buy pizza from a guy and he's like he'll say a prayer with you before you walk away, and it's like a spiritual moment, and the whole place is just like a place of peace. And the messages that I got from there, and it's also like very remote. It's like you have to drive 5 hours up a mountain to get there. Like various, what I'm saying is like you gotta climb a mountain and talk to your elders or whatever, but it's just beautiful. Not just that place and not just Maria's influence, but it's like it's a part of the culture of living in the present moment and respecting nature and respecting yourself and respecting like the rhythm of life that like kind of brings you out of your head back into your heart, and that's very present like all across Mexico, not just there. And I think we're all grateful for her influence and for the makers of the stories around it and the people that have been like big promoters of like just telling the truth, and not every truth is like shiny and bright and beautiful, because like there's difficulties and there's challenges with like any type of medicine itself, or of course like the legal territory and like how to do this ethically. There's like a ton of challenges, but the truth is that there's a profound and incredible potential with these types of experiences, and it's a potential that like it's rare to find other places, and there's not a lot of people you can talk to have this much transformation in like a week's time. And you mentioned like the legislation in the states and things kind of moving forward, and I think that's beautiful. But people deserve to have access, and at least to explore the curiosity and explore the options. I mean, if I had a list of the people that came down when they were at a point of suicidal ideation, like it's a lot, and that these people come down and they go back home, and just to tell a story, there's like this veteran, he's an incredible guy, but we did a couple calls before he came down, and he's at a place where he's like, my whole life is darkness, like I don't have anything, I don't hang out with my family, and just like one of those stories, not having a future, not having hope. And there's a bunch of these in my experience here, and he came down, and there was a family here, and like did a retreat with everyone, and got back home and just like lived a completely different life. He sent me pictures the next couple of weeks of him with the Hootie and the Blowfish and like the pool in Las Vegas, like with his wife, and like he's just big smile. And I'm just like, how does this? Even in my own brain, like how does this happen? Like I don't have a grasp on it. I don't have like a clear understanding. I can't just say this is how. But I see these transformations of people that have like more profound experiences than I had, and it's like people that like don't have an answer, that like they've probably done therapy, they've probably done medications, they've probably done all these other things, and it's like the answer just hasn't been found yet. And like I'm one of those people, and it's just like you go do an experience like this, and it doesn't happen for everybody, but like you go do an experience like this and you realize that your life is different. You realize that you have hope, that you have love, that you have joy, that you have peace, that you have possibilities, you have creativity, you can change everything. And that's something that, like, all the coaches and all the medications and everything else, like I don't know how to give that to people. But then, it's something that like many people find through these types of treatments. It should be, and people deserve to have access to this sort of thing. And it's beautiful. And it's beautiful.
And to have that choice. And to have that choice, and to not have to wait, as the side effects say for antidepressants, 4 to 6 weeks for them to start working, and then 4 to 6 weeks, if you forget a week, you have to start again the 4 to 6 week period again. And you're seeing this distinction in their life, and them taking a stand and being able to make outreach, and whether or not they pick up the phone and they get an answer versus $100,000 in their own self-investment, like your story that you shared, Andrew. Like, I'm going to come back to that. That's powerful share. That you want to, and even more, it seems to me, and this is something I had some individual share too, it seems with any of the psychedelics, it seems even with cannabis, for some reason, from what I've noticed, and do your own research too, Andrew, people who use these substances somehow want to go and share them with other individuals for breakthrough experiences. It's like this reoccurring theme. It's not like they use it and they're like, I got to keep this all for me, I can't tell anybody. It's like this sharing behavior that happens after. Again, science hasn't talked about it yet, because, again, we're still learning more about psychedelics, even though they've been around for thousands of years. But still looking at that, and to see your journey going into the town where Maria Sabina, truly made a difference, and to see that even in their day-to-day, even a simple purchase of a pizza was an area to look into spiritual exploration, to look into cognitive liberty, to have a change in your quality of life, and just from someone wanting to spend extra time with you that is a member of a community, of a consensus of people that see that makes an impact, and they have for thousands of years culturally. And that their neighbors above have some disagreements, but there are ones that even now, in the defense spending bill for the United States, there is funding that they're putting into psychedelic research for veterans. So, and it's just the start of it, Andrew. We're just at the tip of the iceberg, and it doesn't feel like it. At least for me, it doesn't. But it's coming, and if it's not, it's already here.
Yeah, I agree. And it's beautiful, and it's beautiful to be a part of it. And I think, that part about sharing, the benefits of something that's new. I think it's something that if you go through this journey, you're probably going to suffer a little bit. Hopefully not a lot, but, if you do, you develop natural compassion. Because I think it's like until you actually face something and go through it, some sort of loss or some sort of pain, you don't have an understanding of what it's like. You don't have motivation to really help other people. But if you go through the trenches, so to speak, I think it's a natural inspiration to help other people and to share the good news, so to speak. And there's such a natural part of that I think everybody wants to share whenever they have like a big benefit of something, and nobody wants to suffer. And I think just like they say, misery loves company, so does happiness. Happiness loves company. And once you find happiness, once you find peace, you want to share it with people. You want to spread it. You want to shine that light. And psychedelics are just one of the ways you can find that. And it's something that like we've been talking about, like people deserve to find. Everyone deserves happiness. Everyone deserves peace. Everyone deserves that connection with themselves. And it's something that's not always easy to wire, not always easy to get access to and kind of remember inside yourself. But that's what like these plants and these medicines exist for.
Yeah. I was going to ask you to close us with an empowering quote, Andrew, but I want to declare I think you already did right there. So that was awesome. People definitely do deserve the ability to have access to these, to be able to see the difference that it can make, whether their discovery is compassion, whether their discovery is it didn't work, whether their discovery is that they could at least take away what it is that they got from it. But it's still opportunities all there, even stepping away from the traditional. And it's not just me and you or anybody else saying, well, the traditional is there, we haven't looked into it just yet. It's you've looked at it, and you've looked to recreate beyond that. And you wanted to come back again here and even share that. So I want to acknowledge that. Thank you both for being here for this successful podcast. I didn't know if there's anything else you'd like to include on this before we do close, but I'd like to say this was another successful episode of the Empower Podcast.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, anything for you, David? Oh, all right. Thank you all very much. And if you haven't, there's a past episode we just published again. Today is June 3rd. So with Aspen Noonan. If you haven't checked that one out, go ahead and check that out and all of our other podcasts as well. And a shout out across the border again to you, Andrew. Thank you for making the time and availability to record this and for all it is that you're doing for communities at large. And thank you all, folks, most of all, for listening. And bye for now.